Welcome to UK Rail Journeys, Series 2. In this series I follow the original route of the Thames-Clyde Express from London to Glasgow, and then visit Wemyss Bay and Mallaig before returning to London on the Caledonian Sleeper. Episode 9, Leeds and Ribblehead. In this episode, I take a look at Leeds relaxing on a late spring Friday evening, and also take a trip to Ribblehead to watch the railway touring company's Cumbrian Mountain Express cross the Viaduct. It's a warm Friday evening, and Leeds is starting to wind down for the weekend. The streets have been relatively quiet in the city centre, but the bars certainly seem to be thriving, and everyone is taking the opportunity to sit outside, gather a bit of sunshine, and maybe cool themselves in the breeze. I've now walked a bit further west, the site of the Great Northern Railway Hotel in Wellington Street, which in my days was called the Wellesley Hotel and is now the City Central Flats, is a very depressing building. Definitely Victorian, but with very little architectural merit. I've now reached Wellington Place, where, as you can hear from the hum, the Hoist pub and snaffle is doing good business. The Central Station wagon hoist looks to have been restored, and sadly I'm 5 days early because it's reopening on the 15th of May. But it is amazing to find in the centre of all this modernity this wonderful relic from Leeds Central Station. There are plates on the ground which tell me Central Station wagon hoist opened in the 1850s, closed in the 1950s and reopened in 2024. It's a mini museum which will be open 7 days a week. I'm in the Viaduct garden, which leads to lots of flats. But this garden has been built on the stub end of a viaduct that used to lead into Leeds Central Station. It's a lovely spot. Yes, it's only been planted in the last couple of years, and many of the plants still have to fill in the space around themselves. But this is going to be a lovely place for people to come and relax. And in the distance I can hear the squealing of the train wheels as they travel in and out of Leeds City Station. As I walk back across the viaduct, I'm walking over the canal. I suspect that this is the Leeds-Liverpool Canal, which we'll be passing as we take our journey over the Pennines, and we see a wonderful example of staircase locks. I do think it's wonderful how Leeds, in its redevelopment of its buildings, in its absolute modernity in places, has managed to retain these wonderful bits of railway history. Sadly, where I'm stood, it has also retained a 1970s car park. No doubt a monument to the days of being the motorway city of the 70s. As I'm walking back to my hotel, there's one new block. People sat out on their balconies. Whitehall waterfront. And next to it, another block still being built. Whitehall Riverside. And then in the other direction, Riverside West. Leeds really is making the most of the River Aire and the canal running through its centre, which, when I was here at university, was a very run-down area. The 1938 built Queen's Hotel has a magnificent facade at the front, covered in Portland stone. From the back, it's far less impressive. Just standard 1930s brickwork with 1930s windows. Maybe the frames giving a nod to the Art Nouveau style. It's 10:30 in the morning and the Wetherspoons at Leeds City Station is already crowded. Lots of people having a beer and quite a few more having a full English breakfast. For breakfast I understand, but isn't it a bit early for a beer? There's railway engineering work between Carlisle and Glasgow this weekend, so I'm delaying my journey to Carlisle until tomorrow, as I don't want to travel to Glasgow on a rail replacement bus, and I'll travel on to Glasgow on Monday, which will mean that I can travel on the route that the Thames Clyde Express used to take. It's a lovely day, and I've decided to go up to Ribblehead to watch the railway touring company's Cumbrian Mountain Express crossing the famous Ribblehead Viaduct, one of the stunning feats of engineering on that line. A steam train on the viaduct is always a splendid sight to see. The railway touring company offers 3 classes of travel on the train. There is Premier Dining, where the passengers had a full English breakfast on their way north, and they'll be served with a 4-course dinner as they return to their destinations en route to London. Those travelling in first class will have been served with tea and coffee, a breakfast bap and a muffin on the way to Carlisle, and will be served with tea and coffee, a savoury dish and a scone and jam as they return to London. Many of those travelling in standard class will have brought a picnic hamper with them and will enjoy their food as well as hot and cold drinks, biscuits, bars of chocolate and other items from the buffet car on the train. Ribblehead has been described as a wild and windy place. The station master used to send weather reports to the Air Ministry. In the book, Britain's 100 Best Railway Stations, Simon Jenkins gives Ribblehead 1 star. The station is high up on the Pennine Plateau, with the summits of Ingleborough and Whernside in view, and rainfall 4 times that of London. Even on the bright spring afternoon, with the sun shining, there's still quite a strong breeze blowing. The station is 52 miles and 17 chains northwest of Leeds and opened on the 4th of December 1876 as Batty Green. It was renamed Ribblehead on the 1st of May 1877 and closed along with the other smaller stations on the line on the 4th of May 1970. Ribblehead itself isn't even a village. It's a railway station, and at the end of the long railway drive there is a pub. It reopened on the 16th of July 1986 with only a southbound platform. The northbound platform had been demolished to allow for the construction of transfer sidings for a nearby quarry. A northbound platform, which is slightly to the south of the southbound platform, opened on the 28th of May 1993. The station was used by 23,426 passengers in 2022-23. For many years, monthly religious services were held in the station's waiting room by the vicar of Ingleton. These were accompanied by a harmonium concealed behind a billboard in the waiting room. It had been brought to the station by a missionary who came as minister to the construction gangs in the 1870s. Apparently, British Rail charged 2 shillings for the use of the waiting room, which saw as many as 50 worshippers at Harvest Festival. Today, the station is leased by the Settle and Carlisle Railway Trust, who have completely restored and refurbished it. Their team runs a delightful tea shop with a museum to the railways of the area in the station buildings. The station master's house is, I believe, available to rent as holiday accommodation. No one lives here apart from at the small railway inn in the shadow of the famous 24-arch Ribblehead Viaduct, which stands 104 feet above the plateau. This line was the last to be built purely by manual labour. 6,000 navvies were employed and 100 or more died during the construction of the viaduct. It was this viaduct across Batty Moss that led to British Rail wanting to close the line in the mid-1980s. They suggested it would cost £7.5 million to make the necessary repairs. It was proved that this was a grossly inflated amount of money, as the repairs were completed for under £4 million. Whilst the Ribblehead Viaduct is a magnificent sight, it is only the 3rd tallest viaduct on the line. Michael Portillo, Minister of State for Transport at the time, took the decision to keep the line open. However, this probably would never have happened if it hadn't been for the friends of the Settle Carlisle line and others who had lobbied for the line to be retained. Today, trains crossing the viaduct do so at reduced speed on a single track. The line becomes double track at either end of the viaduct, and the viaduct was Grade 2 star listed in November 1988. Since the 1980s, there have been further repairs, and now the land underneath and around the viaduct is a scheduled ancient monument with the remains of the construction camp and the Batty Wifehole, Sebastopol and Belgravian navvy settlements. It's used by passenger trains on the Northern Railway route from Leeds to Carlisle, freight trains including timber and stone, and steam charter excursion trains. Many debate whether the best view is to travel over the viaduct and wave to those gathered on the plateau, or whether to be on the plateau waving at the train whilst it crosses the viaduct. I'm here today, hopefully to do the latter. The railway touring company's Cumbrian Mountain Express, which left Euston Station for Carlisle at 6:35 this morning, is scheduled to cross the viaduct, steam-hauled, this afternoon on its return journey. In order to complete this long day out, the Cumbrian Mountain Express was hauled by a Class 86 vintage electric locomotive named Les Ross from Euston to sidings just outside Carnforth Station. There the electric locomotive left the train and a steam locomotive took its place. The steam locomotive then hauled the train along the steeply graded West Coast Main Line to Carlisle, where the passengers had time to have a quick look at the city whilst the locomotive was serviced with coal and water. The train then reversed and is now travelling along the Settle Carlisle line, through the magnificent scenery, over this amazing viaduct as far as Hellifield, where the train will water and then take a right-hand turn along the freight route via Blackburn to Preston. The steam locomotive leaves the train at Preston, and the electric Class 86 locomotive will rejoin the train and take it back to London, where it will arrive about 10:30 this evening. The steam loco on this train was an LMS Stania Class 5 460, number 44871. It's known as a Black 5 and was built at Crewe Works in 1945. One of the 4 locomotives chosen for the famous 15 guineas special in August 1968. 44871 double-headed with 44781 and was in charge of the Carlisle Citadel to Manchester Victoria leg of the tour, which ran along the Settle and Carlisle line. The locomotive was bought immediately for preservation and never went to Barry Island. In 2006, Ian Riley bought her and took her to his workshops in Bury for an overhaul to mainline standards, and she returned to steam in 2009. Pulled by a Black 5, heading off now to water at Hellifield. I thank the passengers and crew on the northern trains that I took to and from Ribblehead, the Settle and Carlisle Railway Trust, their team at Ribblehead Station Visitor Centre, and the Railway Touring Company for their help in making this podcast. This podcast is produced and published by the Mr. T Podcast Studio. Thank you very much for listening. And please join me again in a couple of weeks for the next instalment.